All right, we are back again. You know what I'm saying? So, in this live, we will be speaking about the importance of feeding your conscience. Okay? The reason why I say feeding your conscience is because a lot of us have been programmed to believe that, that we're feeding our stomachs. And the reason why a lot of people say that is because they have been told by others that's what they're doing. But technically, what's really happening is that your stomach is giving your mind a signal. When you hear that growl feeling, or that feeling, or when you had that growl sound, or that emptiness that's within inside your stomach, it's pretty much sending the mind, right, a signal to let the mind know, like, hey, I'm hungry. You know what I mean? Your information processor that you call the stomach processes information. The information that it processes is the foods that you intake. So always realize, like with the English text, it comes with a lot of spells with it and a lot of illusions. So you always want to realize, like, what you are, how can I say this in simple terms? You got to always realize what is your information processor, which is your stomach. How is it programming the things that you are consuming? Okay, because at the end of the day, those same things that you consume with your information processor now get transferred to your mind and also to your vision. But we're gonna break it all the way completely down, that way you can understand exactly what I'm saying. So we're gonna start off small and then work our way all the way to the top, and it's gonna be fun. So let's just look at it like this. Let's start off with the food. Okay, the food that you eat has ingredients. Okay, the ingredients are information. Okay, and how the information can go is in separate two ways. You have information that goes with and heals your genetic codes, and then you also have information that goes against healing your genetic codes, that I call artificial intelligent foods. Okay, so when it comes to eating information, right, and feeding your conscious, you have to realize what type of information do you want to feed your conscious, because based on what type of information you feed your conscious is based on what type of experience that you will get in life. Let's just be honest. If you feed your conscious of life, then you will act like you are alive. If you feed your conscious of death, then you're pretty much act like death, which means that what happens is, in one world, if you was to eat things that naturally feed your conscious along with your genetic codes, you will be more conscious of yourself. Not only that, more aware of what's actually going on. A conscious of death is not aware of anything, so it's just more of like a third dimensional characteristic. They are playing as someone that they think they are, but technically that's not what they are. So it works like the conscious of death pretty much just works in a way of, it's not aware of what it's eating at all. And you can simply tell, because on the simple fact, if you was to ask the conscious of death, like, what are you eating, right? And they would go from a bird to a chicken. You see what I'm saying? And then more importantly, after they fry the chicken, right, they now would tell you that, oh, this would be fried chicken. But at the end of the day, it's still a dead bird. So the information that's within the bird does not align with your genetic codes. All right. So when you eat that, how it works in the system is, you're eating a bird that's pretty much dead. So it's dead information. How it works is, you intake it, you consume it. Now the information is being digested through your information processor that you call a stomach, right? And now what ended up happening is, there's three major areas of how this information flows. Technically four. And so the first way is consuming it, right? And when you consume it, it goes to your first information processor. Now it's being digested, right? It's still information at that point. So that information got to travel into three other areas. Most people realize when they eat food, which is information, they realize that, okay, I eat it, I digest it, then after that I poop it out. That's not it. The information had to travel somewhere else. So the mind, right, feeds off of information. So based on what type of information you are processing, that's what happens. That's how you change the degrees within your conscious. So when you're eating, like I was saying before, when you're eating things that are dead, right, That information goes to your information processor, now transfer to the mind. That's the second step. It transferred to the mind. So now the vibration of your mind is going to be lowered. And you won't be aware of it, because if you're not aware of what the food is doing to you, which is the information that's causing effect on your mind, your behavior patterns, how you analyze things, stuff like that. If you're not aware of how you naturally analyze things, then you would not be aware of how that food is taking control over your mind. Now, after the food is being, how can I say, now that the information is transferred to your mind, now it has to now transfer to your vision. Okay? So it's like me and you can be in the same room, right? And I could tell you the chalkboard look like this, and you would tell me, well, the chalkboard look like that. That's because we're in two different type of dimensions. If you eat third dimensional foods, right? You know what I mean? Third dimensional foods, I would say, in further, just to break down, it's just a simple modified starches, artificial coloring, and GMOs. All those things, or whatever the case may be, are artificial. So the degree that it's going to turn your mind along with your vision, is going to naturally just lower it. So it's not, you're not going to see everything the way you're supposed to see it. You might be looking at it, but your mind is not getting the information of what you're actually seeing. You see what I'm saying? Along with your eyes, because your eyes is looking at it at a lower degree, actually a lower dimension. This is the third dimension, but you as the mind and the vision, and along with the spirit, does not have to look at it in a low vibrational way, because technically your spirit knows what it is, your subconscious knows what it is, but it takes you to say, you know what, let me reprogram myself, which is your mind, with natural information, right? Because a lot of people don't realize that when you naturally eat information, there is a signal between the mind and also the subconscious. So what end up happening is, in the process of you eating foods that distort that signal between those two minds, mind and subconscious, the signal gets distorted. So when the signal gets distorted, guess what happens? You can't receive any information from your subconscious. And I'm gonna just be real with you. It's just like when how can I say in simple terms, when I'm about to go live, just being honest with myself, I'd rather smoke. When I smoke, I'd rather smoke at night. The only reason why I say that is because of the simple fact, sometimes for me, not for everyone else, but for myself, I notice that when I do smoke and I want to do live, I'm a little stagnant. My information is not as sharp as it needs to be. It is accurate, okay, but it's not as sharp as I want it to be. So it's just like, just me doing that and evaluating myself of how I respond and interact with it when I am smoking, it lets me know that I am aware of myself as well. So like I was saying again, it's based on what you consume. If you consume foods that go against your genetic codes, then you're going to be the one that basically ruin your genetic codes, along with your body and along with your mind. Because in a simple fact, the foods that you're eating are not designed for you. So it's just like when you're eating nature, you should watch how the process of nature grow, and it actually is the same process of how you grow. So your father has a seed, your mother has an egg, right? Plants, they have a seed. The ground would be what? The egg. You know what I mean? And you have the natural resources of this land, which is water, sunlight, and the soil. All those combined together, right, makes natural things upon this land, as in produce, high vibrational foods. If you notice, majority of foods that naturally come from the soil, they come with high vibrational colors that also relate to your chakra system as well. So when you look at that, you should really be like, okay, hold on. So you telling me like greens is part of the chakra system, how can I say, peppers. It's all part of the chakra system. So you should always look at the colors that's within the chakra system, and look at the colors that you're consuming, because pretty much you're like, they're, how can I say, when it comes to produce, they're, to me being honest, they're spiritual foods for me. They're not just like physical 3D foods. They're just not. Because what I'm saying is the ground, right? We, how can I say, like me myself, I'm still discovering what the ground is, right? And the ground could be a whole lot of different things. It can't just be just one thing. You see what I'm saying? So that's why I say, like, I'm still doing research up on it and just figure out like exactly what it is. But one thing I can say is that between my feet and the ground, there is a magnetic field. Not only that, when I ground myself, as in plant my feet within the soil, I can feel a sensation of information flowing through me. Along also when I also sun gaze as well. And a lot of people don't realize sun gazing, you can do in many forms. A lot of people believe sun gazing is just like you just sitting outside and you staring at the sun. Don't get me wrong, do that all the time. But like, if you're just in your first levels of getting into it, let your antennas, you know what I mean, what they have taught you, which is here, let your antennas hit, let the sun hit your antennas. Because what it is the information that's coming from the sunlight, which are light codes, because a lot of people don't realize that they are light code readers. You have light code readers and non-light code readers. And so for light code readers, they naturally need solar energy. And that's what the sun is. It's nothing but solar energy. You have solar panels, right? Solar panels, okay? So if they have a solar panel, it sounds to me that that must be solar energy within the solar panel. So with that being said, you have solar beings, you have non-solar beings, okay? And so what it all come down to is that you have beings that are spiritual, right? And you have beings that are non-spiritual. And so from both of those worlds, you can learn from the both of them. It's like higher self and lower self. You can learn from the both of them, but also realize that, you know, how can I say, produce foods they are not just like foods, they're spiritual, because they align with your chakra system. Everything that you find in produce that is naturally grown, I mean, you can identify that with your chakra system. So it's, to me, just being honest, it's more spiritual than actually physical, or whatever the case may be. And what I like about produce is that I know every time I'm eating it, I don't have to think like, oh, is this destroying my body? I just naturally know, like, no, this is actually helping my body. Why? Because I need to reprogram myself. And that's another thing. When people eat produce, it's not just about you just eating, to just heal. It's also about reprogramming the mind, because remember, the mind needs information. That information, right, get processed all through the vessel depending on what you eat. You see what I'm saying? But the main source of what it come down to is the mind receiving that type of information. You see what I'm saying? So like, how can I say this in more simple terms? When you eat things that go against, go against the information that you're supposed to really store and download, you could tell in your behavior patterns. Like, it's like if I eat too many chocolate muffins, I know, like, yeah, I can't keep eating these, because in my mind, my behavior patterns start changing. I start getting a little sluggish, a little lazy. I may not want to do live, so that's why I just leave those foods alone, and I replace them like with watermelons, apples, things that naturally have seeds within them, because I know that I'm a seed and a plant myself. So with that being said, it's just like for myself, once I realized that, I was like, you know what? I had to naturally feed myself the natural things that align with my vessel. And that's what it all come down to. Because, you know what I mean, when you like, I feel like when you're in this physical realm right here, when you start mastering things at a physical level, naturally you're going to see it from a spiritual level as well. You see what I'm saying? And another thing is, like, when you're eating those foods that are natural, you're decalcifying your pineal gland, okay, for one. That way, your pineal gland can actually give you the vision of seeing once again. And a lot of people think they are seeing when they look at these two physical eyes. And no, these two physical eyes are only for the physical realm. That's it. But your third eye is for the spiritual realm, and that is the all-seeing eye of you. Because on a simple fact, when you have your all-seeing eye, which is your third eye, open, nothing in this realm can lie to you. You can look at it for what it is. You know what I'm saying? It's just like if you do have a discalcified a pineal gland, and let's say you don't have access to your third spiritual eye yet, you would look at the tree and you would say, oh, it's just a tree. But me as an individual, I would tell you like, no, it's actually something more. It actually processes information, right? The information that's being sent to your first pyramid that you call your nose. So the trees to me look like information processor. The reason why I say they look like information processors is because of the simple fact they receive in information, as in rain, as in sunlight. So rain and sunlight to me is information, right? And they absorb that information from either the soil or directly being hit with the sun. So to me, when they get that information, right, they are processing that information now to send off that information that you call air. Trees also have, how can I say, their energy as well, just as much as your energy. And if you, like, say if you was worried about something, but you're really not trying to hold on to it, naturally being around trees, you know what I mean, and calming your mind, right, to a certain degree where even the information that the trees are giving your conscious will override that worry of what you're, you know, worried about. And it works just like that. That's why I say in the movie with the great ancestor named Morpheus, when he had said, you know, to Neo, what do you think you're breathing? You think you're breathing air? And that always stuck out to me. And I was like, it's got to be something more than what the third dimensional world had told us. You know what I mean? Like, the third dimensional world would tell us that you're eating food, but at the end of the day, it's information. Ingredients is the word ingredients is illusion. It's an illusion. It's a spell. It's not a real word. But when you tell me what type of information is within the fruit or produce of what I'm eating, then that means that I can open up to a degree and actually say, okay, no, this is this and this is that. When you say it's just food, it's just like you're putting a lie in front of it, and you pretty much want me to believe that it's food. But I know that it's not just food. I know that it's actually information. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, or whatever the case may be, when you are eating, you know what I mean, make sure you're not staying away from, you know, the chicken, you know what I mean, staying away from the ground beef. And another thing is that, how can I say this in simple terms? In this world, we are taught about certain things like ground beef. And I will always ask people, as they stay in their third dimensional character, how is it ground beef if it never came from the ground? How is it a hot dog if it never came from a dog? That's why I say the English text is like a spell. You know what I mean? How is it McDonald's and they're McLoving it when the information that's in the food is tearing down your genetic code structure? You see what I'm saying? So just them saying, this is McDonald's and it's loving you, at the end of the day it's not loving you, because at the end of the day it's destroying your body. And what you got to understand is that in this matrix, the word love is like an emotion. So they try to use your emotional system, right, with the word called McLove, McLoving it. And when they tie that in, right, to you as a third dimensional character, because you don't know any better, you know what I mean, you're going to be like, oh, you know, McDonald's love me. Like, McDonald's don't love you. They just like your money and taking your energy. That's what they really like doing. So, like, how can I say this in simple terms? When you're eating, make sure you're eating to feed your conscious to stay alive, not to have your conscious at a how can I say, at a low vibrational dead state, in a state where you're in a dimension of pretty much death. You see what I'm saying? And a lot of people say, well, death is only when you die. I don't know what dying is. What I do know is that at a certain point in time, your body goes out of commission, which means that your soul get ejected out of this vessel. And then after that, your soul go and transcend and do whatever it needs to do. Whatever you do on that end, it just happens. I don't, you know what I mean? I can't go into detail about that, but what I can say is that it's like the vessel is, to me, it's like a car. To me, it's like a VCR. You see what I'm saying? Depending on what type of tape you want to put inside of this vessel is what type of movie you get. you eat foods of death, you will see dimensions of death, and that's what you all experience. If you feed your food natural things, you know what I mean, produce, things that align with your genetic code structure, then you get to see a movie of life. Just being honest. That's just how the world, that's just how information works. It's like you can't expect for you to experience great things if you're eating things that are going to harm you. How do you expect that? You know, that information of what you're eating also has something to do with your thought patterns. Okay? So like when you're eating, make sure that you are eating to feed the conscious. With that being said, this is your ancestor General Y God signing over and out. Y'all have a nice one.